Morning, everybody. Welcome to our second book-based learning lesson of the week. So for this lesson, you will need a pen or pencil, some paper, and a sound mat if you have one. So we're going to start our lesson today by thinking about the date. So I want you to look at the calendar to help you. And I want you to say a sentence to your adult in a moment. And I'd like you to use a full sentence. I'd like you to say the date is to your adult. So you might want to pause the video here. Shall we see if you got it right? Okay, let's have a look. Let's repeat that sentence together. It's my turn first, and then you can say it after me. The date is Thursday, the 7th of January, 2021. I wonder if you can point to the right date on the calendar. There we go. We can see it now, can't we? Now, I've got some exciting news to share with you. My birthday is in January this month. So I'd like you to have a guess. What day do you think my birthday might be? You might want to tell an adult, or you can tell me. Shall we see if you got it right? Okay, are you ready? It's the 16th of January. So that's my birthday, and my question for you is, how many days do I have to wait until I can celebrate my birthday on the 16th of January? So you might want to pause the video here and count the days for me. Right, let's see if you got it right. So I've got my pen here, and today's date is the 7th. So I'm going to start my count from tomorrow, from the next day, which is the 8th. So are you ready to count with me? Off we go. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days. It's 9 days until my birthday. I can't wait. So I hope you got that answer right, and don't worry if you didn't. We'll get some more practice again tomorrow. Okay, so I want you to think back to your learning from yesterday when we saw some of these pictures and we discussed what we could see, and we wrote a little sentence about it, didn't we? Now, can you remember the names of these settings or these habitats? I'd like you to pause the video, point to the picture, and to say the name of the habitat or setting to your adult. Okay, let's have a go at saying those words together. Okay, my turn. Mountains, your turn. Okay, let's see what the next habitat is going to be. It's the rainforest. Can you repeat that word for me? Well done. Okay. Next we have a city. Can you repeat that word? Brilliant. And then the last setting or habitat is the desert. Can you repeat that? Wonderful. So I've got a question for you. Do you think that these habitats can all be found near to each other, or do you think that they are far away from each other? So I want you to think about that question, pause the video and explain your thinking to the adult that's with you. Okay. Right, we're going to find out where all of these habitats or settings come from. As you can see from the picture, they are all quite close to each other. So, all of these landscapes or habitats are from Africa. Can you say that word for me, please, children? Africa. Right, so I want you to pause the video here and tell an adult what you know about Africa. Is it a word you've heard of before? It might be a word you haven't heard of before, and that's okay. But if you know anything about this word, now's your chance to tell an adult about it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Africa now. Africa is what we call a continent. Can you say that word for me, please? A continent, that's right. A continent is a large, solid area of land. If a continent is the whole, then its countries are the parts of the whole. So shortly we will be thinking of some questions that we might have about Africa. But first of all, we need to learn exactly what a question is. Some of you might know what a question is, and some of you might be able to explain that. So I'd like you to pause the video and explain what you think a question is to the adult next to you, or you can explain it to me. Well done for having a go. So a question is a type of sentence that we ask to get some more information from a person or from people who answer the question. For example, sometimes we can tell if a sentence is a question if it needs a yes or a no answer. Some of you might have already thought of a question that you can ask your adult. But now we're going to learn a little bit more about what a question is and what a question isn't. Perhaps you can have a go at trying to read the sentence that you can see on the screen. Don't worry if you need to ask for help because your adult should be next to you. So I'm going to ask you to pause this video and try and read the sentence that you can see. Okay, now we're going to read it together. My turn. What do dogs eat? Now it's your turn to repeat that sentence. Now I'd like you to think about whether this sentence is a question or whether it's not a question. And I want you to explain your thinking to your adult or to me. So you can say, this is a question because, or this is not a question because. So pause the video here and tell your adult what you think. Okay, are you ready to find out? This is a question. It is a question. Now we know it's a question because we can see a question mark at the end, and this tells us that we've got a question. But we also know that it's a question because it needs to be answered by a person or it needs to be answered by people. Ask the question to your adult and see if they can give you the answer. So pause the video here. Okay, we are going to move on to the next sentence. I want you to have a go at reading it to your adult, or you can ask your adult for help. So pause the video here and have a read of the sentence. Let's say it together. Are you ready? Dogs eat dog biscuits. Is this a question or is this not a question? Remember to use that full sentence when you tell your adult. So you can say, this is a question because, or this is not a question because. So pause the video here and explain your thinking to your adults. Okay, are we ready to find out? Well done if you knew that it is not a question. And we know this because we don't have a question mark at the end. And this sentence doesn't need anybody to answer it to give any information. Okay, next sentence. I would like you to have a go at reading it or ask an adult to help you to read this sentence. Now we're going to read it together. Ready? Why do spiders have 8 legs? So again, I want you to have a think. Is this a question? Yes or no? And remember to use a full sentence. This is a question because. This is not a question because. So pause the video here. Okay, let's find out if you were right. Yes, this is a question because we've got our question mark at the end of the sentence and we know that it needs an answer. So somebody needs to answer the question to give us more information. And we've got the last sentence here to talk about. So remember, try and read the sentence yourself to your adult or ask your adult to help you with some of it. Okay, let's read it together. Ready? I live in Forest Gate. Have a think. Is this a question or is it not a question? Remember to use that full sentence. This is a question because. This is not a question because. So pause the video here. Shall we see if you're right? Okay. This is not a question. That's right. It does not have a question mark at the end. This is a full stop. And we know all about full stops, don't we? And we don't need to answer it and give any information. Okay. So now I want you to think back to Africa. What do you want to find out about Africa? I'm sure there are lots of questions that you have. I want you to be curious cats today, and I want you to think about what you'd like to find out about Africa. You can look at some of the pictures to help you think of a question if you need to. There's some clues to help you. You might have more than one question. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video and take some time and think of a question that you'd like to ask about Africa, and I'd like you to tell this question, to ask this question to your adults. So pause the video here. So I'm sure that you've thought of some really interesting questions to ask. Now, I'm going to share the question that I have about Africa, and I'm going to show you how I would write that question using the sound map and remembering my finger spaces. Okay, so my question is, what animals are in Africa? Can you say that question for me? What animals are in Africa? So I'm going to start with the word what. Now, I'd like you to look at the sight word mat. You might be able to see the word what, or you might ask an adult to help you to find it. I'd like you to point to it when you're ready. So I can see that the word what is here. So that's going to help me write the word. Now, I need to make sure that I write a capital letter. There we go. So it's nice and big, my W. Next, I need to write H, and that needs to be tall. And I finish with a flick, and then I need to write A, around, up, down and flick, and then a nice tall letter T, and I've got the word what. Do you remember what my second word was? It was animals. Can you help me sound it out, please? Animals. Animals. Right, so I'm going to use my sounds to help me to write that word. So I'm going to start my word down here. Okay, so I'm going to write my A first, then my then my I, all animals. So I've got my two words. What animals? And then my next word was are. And I wonder if you can find are on the sight word sound mat. It's one of the blue words. Point to it if you can. I can see it and it's here. So I'm going to use that to help me. I know that when I spell are, I need to write A. And then I need to write R and then E. And you can see that all my letters are the same height, aren't they, in that word, are. What animals are, and then my next word was in. That's right. And then my last word, what animals are in Africa? And I can see that word Africa up here, so I can use that to help me. But shall we sound it out anyway? Off we go. Africa. And Africa needs to start with a capital letter because it's the name of a place. It's the name of a continent. My F is nice and tall. Africa. Now, do you remember what we had to put at the end of our sentence? Was it a full stop? No, it wasn't. It was a question mark. So that's what I'm going to write to finish my question. Shall we read it together? Off we go. What animals are in Africa? So that's my question. And you can see that I've started with a capital letter, and that letter's nice and big. It's bigger than my other letters. And then I've got a tall H and a tall T, and they're as tall as each other, aren't they? And then the letters in animals, they're all the same height apart from the L, which is nice and tall. And then I need to make sure I've got my capital letter for Africa and also my question mark at the end. And my letters are sitting on the line, aren't they? So let's see if you can write a question that you have. Okay, so our follow-up activity for today is for you to think of some questions about Africa. Now, some of you might just want to record a video of yourselves asking a question, and that's okay. Some of you might want to challenge yourselves and write a question just like I did. Now remember, if you are writing a question, don't worry about spelling all of your words perfectly, okay? Use the sound mat on this video to help you. And the important thing is that you're using your sounds to try your best to spell the words. It doesn't matter if you haven't got all of your spellings all correct and right, okay? It's about trying your best. Some of you might want to write more than one question. It's totally up to you. And whatever you do, try and upload a photo or a video onto Class Dojo so that your teacher can see it. Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.